engineering, suppose my field is also computer science and engineering. What exactly is science basically? Science is solving the problems, programming the things, and also getting to know certain things in a different aspect, isn't it? So whenever an art student meets a science student, so it always says that, okay, I'm a science student, so I am more concentrated towards the technical aspects of the things. I go beyond what is written, and I'll add my own brains onto it and try to figure out something which is hidden inside it, isn't it? So you always try to come up with the hidden meanings in your data or information or anything. Okay, so if I say computer science, so I will go inside the computer and study what is there inside the computer and do the research on that. Okay, I have a hard disk, I have a RAM, then hard disk is of what type, SDR, DDR, etc., etc., RAM. Why do we need a RAM? Can we replace it with something else? So this is what science is. Why, how, where? We ask such questions. That is what makes us different from the rest of the people. We are different because we try to find out the reasons why, how, where, what, which others don't generally ask. Okay. Now data is, now I first of all tell you what is the difference between data, information, and knowledge. You must have heard these three words a number of times, and every time they are used interchangeably. But actually there is a huge difference. Data is the raw data. Information is the processed data, or you can say a data with a meaning to it. And knowledge is something which you assign your database along with your information. So you have combined your database with your information to come up with certain inferences, yeah, decision making. I'll give you a very vague example for this. I'll say one apple. This is data. Okay, one apple. So it doesn't mean anything to you. What is the meaning of this one apple? Who is eating it? Why is he eating it? How is he eating? These questions are not answered. Okay, so if I give you just data, the data is one apple. But if I give you information, information is adding meaning to it. What is the meaning to it? I eat an apple a day. This is a meaning to it. So once I have given you the meaning, then it is of importance to you. Okay, now you will say, okay, who is eating this apple? When is he eating the apple? I am eating an apple a day. So Pooja eats an apple a day. This is information. What is knowledge now? Knowledge is coming up with certain inferences, certain decision making on the basis of your information along with the database. What is the information? I eat an apple a day. What is the database? Database says an apple a day keeps doctors away. Correct. So since I am eating an apple a day and an apple a day keeps doctors away, so there are very few chances of me getting ill. This is your inference. This is your decision, isn't it? This is knowledge. So with the combination of your information, with the combination of your databases, of your whatever data you have stored onto your system, and then you are coming up with your decision making. You are coming up with your inferences. This is known as knowledge. So now you know what is the difference between data, information, and knowledge. So knowledge is basically taking out the insights. Now insights is a very beautiful word that will talk about the analysis. Okay, inside is the hidden meaning, the hidden structure, the mysterious structure inside it. So many times when you are talking to your friend and you say communication gap ho gaya, what is that communication gap? Because you were not able to express your feelings well, and there was a communication gap. Or sometimes you may say that, okay, don't read between the lines, isn't it? That is, you are trying to figure out something which I am not meaning. I have not meant that, but then too also you are trying to figure it out. Okay, you are meaning this. This is nothing but data science. That is, you are trying to figure out from your speech what you are trying to say. I am getting very bored. I need to go somewhere. So what is the hidden meaning inside it? Okay, I want to go out to have some dinner, isn't it? And in the pandemic times, it happens a lot. From past 10 months or so, you are at home, you are not supposed to do anything, you were not able to do anything, you were not able to go out. So these are the things that added to your mental stress. isn't it? So you would simply say, okay, from 10 months I am at home. So what does this mean? You were not supposed to go out, you have not taken any outing, you have not gone anywhere. So these are the things which shows that what is the analysis of your data. Got it? So data science is reading between the lines, finding out the hidden patterns, or finding out something so that so that you can lead to a decision. Correct? Now, this can be done automatically or this can be done manually, and we do it manually every day. Whenever you are talking to your spouse, it happens. Acha, tum ye kehna cha rahe ho. So that is data science, data analysis. And if I make a software for doing it, that is what we are going to learn in the next 5 days. How to make a software to analyze the data and come up with the inferences, come up with the decisions. Okay. So data science is an interdisciplinary field with certain processes, some methods involved in it, so that you can infer the decisions, or as I told you, this is a very beautiful word which says insights. You come up with the insights and extract the knowledge. Knowledge, I've already told you the difference between data, information, and knowledge. So our task is to retrieve the knowledge. Knowledge means which is more meaningful to you and it is associated with the database so that you can come up with your decisions, your inferences. And the data can be structured or unstructured data. So now we come up with the concept of what is structured and what is unstructured data. And these were the terms which were used in the inauguration as well by the student Kabil and also by Murugan sir, that we need to extract the insights from the structured and unstructured data. Kabil gave you a very precise definitions, or he told that what is data science and machine learning in a very precise way. So, now we come up with the concepts of statistics, machine learning, data analysis, data science. So this is all together one thing. And you need to do all these things. You need to have statistics. What are statistics? Mean, average, mode, and so on. Then you need to apply machine learning also, data analysis also. So what is the difference between all these? That I am going to discuss in this session. At what is AI, what is data science, what is ML, how are they interconnected to each other, what is deep learning. We'll try to figure out this in this particular session so that your introduction to this data sciences workshop is complete, in which you are able to find out the difference between these terms which are used generally interchangeably. Then there is another term which is known as big data. Kabir was talking about the 3 V's: velocity, volume, and veracity, or variety, volume, variety, and velocity. So these are the 3 V's which we generally talk about in big data: volume, variety, and velocity. Let me give you an example for this. I'm giving you the lecture, okay? Or I'm trying to, I won't say it is a lecture, it is more of a one-to-one interaction with you all. If you have any doubts, questions, you can put on the chat box. After every 15 or so minutes, I will stop sharing. I'll go to the chat box, find out what are your doubts and try to clear them. So I won't say it is a lecture because you people are also faculty members, as I am. We are all in the same boat. So it's just that I'm trying to share my knowledge or my experiences, and that's it. We are on the same boat. So if I'm delivering something to you for 1.5 hours, suppose, okay, and 1.5 hours means 60 plus 30, 90 minutes, okay. So for 90 minutes, I'm going to speak, correct? And if you try to record the session, as it is going on YouTube as well. So I'm trying to record the session in this case. So if I'm trying to record the sessions, and in every second, I'm speaking suppose 2 or 3 words. Every second. Suppose I am speaking 2 words every second. So it is 120 words every minute, isn't it? So 60 words per second. And then I can say, 2 words per second. Let me delete this. So it's 2 words per second, or I can say 120 words per minute, or I can say 120 into 60 words per hour. Okay, 120 into 60 per hour, and I can add more to it, and I can say, okay, 120 into 90 per my complete lecture. So these many words I have spoken. Correct. Some of the words you may feel are unique. Some of the words you may feel they are not unique. I'm repeating the same words again and again. So if you are going for a natural language processing module, so you'll have to process all these 120 into 90 words, isn't it? And your brain is doing it. Your brain is processing all these 120 into 90 words, and you are trying to learn or trying to decipher or trying to understand what I'm trying to say, isn't it? So when you are trying to understand what I'm saying, so you are understanding 120 into 90 words, correct? Yes. Now, if I am saying this meeting is getting recorded, so can you imagine the amount of GB that it would be there? Yes. So even if you take a pic, it is somewhere around 4 MB. If you take a high resolution pic, it is 4 MB. And when I'm talking about a video, so video which may have somewhere around 10 to 15 pictures per second, isn't it? So just imagine the amount of data that is getting generated. I can say somewhere around 3 GB of data. Something about 3 GB of data is getting generated every session, and you have 14 sessions for this. So 14 into 3, this much amount of GB is created. 42. Okay, so 14 into 3 sessions, so 42 GB of data is there. And you imagine how many Atal FDPs have been announced, somewhere around 500 Atal FDPs. So 42 into 500 GB of data, 42 into 500 GB of data is produced in all the Atal FDPs. Imagine the amount of data. Correct. And you are all submitting this data to Atal. 42 into 500 GB of data. This all GB of data has been submitted to Atal. And now you say that, okay, there was a session which was done on 2nd of November by Pooja Jain at 11:30. And she talked about the 3 V's. Can you retrieve that? Imagine you have such a huge amount of data and you want to retrieve the big data part that I was discussing right now after 1 year. After 1 year. So just imagine how is it going to be done? You need to apply certain algorithms to retrieve the exact video. And even if that video is extracted, so probably your answer would be straightforward, that I will save the video with the date, isn't it? I'll say 2nd November, 11:30 AM, Pooja Jain. This is what? This is nothing but annotations. So you give annotations to your videos, annotations, or you also say labeling. You give labelings to your data. That is done. That will be able to retrieve your data fast. So even if I have 42 into 500 GB of data, if the proper annotations are given for the videos, it is easy to extract. Now in that 3 GB of data, I'm saying that I want the exact slide, the exact 1 minute in which I was talking about the 3 V's. Then you have to apply the machine learning algorithms, isn't it? So the 3 V's of big data says volume, the huge amount of data that you have. I'm just talking about the Atal FDPs, so 42 into 500 GB of data. Variety, I'm speaking also, I am writing also, I am giving a video, audio, and text. So all the 3 types need to be processed. And you can say, give me that slide in which annotations was written, or give me that second in which annotations was written, isn't it? So you have text, you have audio, you have video, and you need to process all 3 together. Velocity is, that is what I mentioned here, 2 words per second, 120 words per minute. So just imagine what amount of work your brain is doing. It is able to process so much of words, find out the meaning of those words, process it, put it into your brains. Neurons are working very, very fast. And if there is some instrument by which you can find out how the neurons are working, so you'll say, okay, they are working very, very fast. They are moving here and there, here and there, here and there, so that you are able to understand the things. Isn't it? So volume, variety, and velocity are very, very important. And some of the people say two other V's also for big data, that is veracity and variety. Veracity and one more that will be there in the video also that I'll show you. But all are majorly related to these 3 points: volume, variety, and velocity. So this data can be structured or unstructured. If I have a proper table, like this, in which I have columns, rows, I'll say this is roll number, this is gender, this is age, this is name, and so on. So this is a standard data. It is a structured data. You have a proper structure of doing it, and it is done. How much space is going to occupy? An Excel sheet occupies maximum of 3 kbs or 4 kbs, or maximum to maximum, even if it has 1000 rows, it will take 1 MB of data. That's it. Okay, so it is a structure. It requires very, very less storage, and it is a structured format with rows and columns. So what about the unstructured data? Unstructured is nothing but the images, videos, audios, the example which I gave you. I am delivering the lecture, and for this entire 1.5 hours, the video is getting recorded, the audio is getting recorded, whatever I'm writing is getting recorded. So this needs to be analyzed. Yeah, this needs to be processed. This is unstructured data, because there is a not formal structure of rows and columns. You don't know what is your primary key, what is your secondary key, and so on. And unfortunately, it occupies 80% of the data which we have. 80% of the data which we have throughout the world is unstructured. So just imagine the amount of processing that we need to have in current times. Earlier, if you talk about in 90s, we used to have just floppy drives. When I did my BTech in 2003, we used to have just the floppy drive. And we used to store our projects in the floppy drive. Floppy drive was only 14 KB. 14 KB. And that too also was very huge for us. And we were able to have many projects in the one single floppy drive. As and when the days go ahead and we started seeing the CDs. CDs were 700 MB. And then again, we went to DVDs. DVDs were 4 GB or so, 3.7, I think, 4 GBs or so. And see how we are progressing towards the amount of data that we need to process. Earlier, it was 14 KB, 700 MB, 4 GB, and now people travel with the hard disk of 1 TB or 2 TB, because even 4.3 GB is not sufficient. In fact, if you are going to going for a traveling, going to a tour of 10 days, 1 DVD, you won't be able to store your images in 1 DVD. I have tried it out. Pen drives have started from 8 GB to 64, 128, 256 GBs of pen drive. And people again have stopped using the pen drives also, and they carry the hard disk of 2 DB with them. Because then there is no restrictions on the amount of photos that you click. And when you click some 10 photos of almost the same, because you need to check it later on that whether they were correct or not. But do you hardly delete them? You don't do it. You just check whether, okay, the image was correct or not. It is not blurred. And I was looking good. My suit was looking good, and so on. But very few people actually delete them. Okay, so the data is growing at a very, very high speed. And we need to have very, very strong algorithms, protocols, processes, methods to process this. Okay. So with the data, if I am going for the analysis, the analysis says the scientific process of transforming data into insight for making better decisions, offering new opportunities, and so on. That is what I was trying to tell you. So data science and data analytics, these are the two terms that are used interchangeably. And there is a very, very thin line of difference between these two, data analysis and data science. And for us as engineers, for us it is almost the same. Because data science and data analysis is the same. We are trying to figure out the hidden meanings, the hidden patterns, and then coming up with certain decisions. Okay. So there is a very thin line of separation between them, and you can treat them as to be the same data analysis. So offering new opportunities for a competitive advantage. But if I talk about the business intelligence, what is a business intelligence? On the basis of the data, you are targeting your business. Remember, there was a movie named as Corporate. There was a movie named as Corporate, in which it was on Coca-Cola and Pepsi. It showed the conflict of Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and the design of one was stolen by the other. And that was nothing. Whenever the companies are coming with certain designs, it is only on the basis of the data that they have. They do the analysis of the data. And from past 10-15 years, every company has business analytics in their profile, business analytics. And what are they supposed to do? They gather the data, they take the feedback from the people in different forms. They can do the recordings, or they can take it as in the Google form. Like in this workshop also, your feedback is being taken. And when the feedback is being taken, so then they can analyze the things. Like suppose you give the feedback for me, then for the next session you will give the feedback, then for tomorrow also the feedback would be given. Once all the feedback is collected, then afterwards, after the FTP, Murugan sir will share this feedback to Atal. Atal will analyze the feedbacks. Okay, this particular faculty didn't have a good feedback, so we are not going to use for the another FTP. This faculty had a very good feedback, why not use it for another Atal FTP, etc., etc. Okay, or they can also come up and say, okay, you need to improve on so and so things. So network connectivity was an issue, so why not improve on that? Whatever. So there would be an analysis of whatever is done, and then they come up with the decisions. Okay, and if business involved in it, then it is known as business analytics. So as I was giving you the example of Coca-Cola and Pepsi, so you first gave a free sample bottle to different people. You took the feedback, and then you designed, okay, sugar was too much, why not reduce the amount of sugar it has? Or the carbonated water was too much, reduce the carbon inside it, etc., etc., etc. So that is why it says you go for the requirements, you go for the collection, understanding, preparation, modeling, evaluation, deployment, and then the feedback. Again, it will come to modeling and so on. So these are the different steps which are involved. And I'll be talking about these steps in detail when I will be discussing machine learning in my post-lunch session. Okay? So machine learning talks about these different aspects of different phases, and machine learning is, you can say, is a way of doing the analysis of the data and then coming up with the conclusions. At this point of time, I would like to show you a video. This is not visible. So just I'll open the video directly and let me know if you can see that video. Is the video audible and visible? I have the chat box with me. No sound? Cannot hear it? Okay. Maybe I'll share it here itself. No, I'm already sharing the screen. Okay. It's open on VLC player. Generally, it goes. You cannot hear it?
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. No sound.
No sound? Okay. How to have that sound now? Google Chrome. Okay, let me check it out. But how to play with Google Chrome in that sense? Because it is a VLC player. Let me see if this is there. Now, can you hear?
No, ma'am, it's not there.
Anyways, see it?
Yeah, we can see the video.
Okay, so I'll explain the video.
Not
don't
audible.
worry.
Sorry to
Fine.
interrupt you, ma'am. There is no voice.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Don't worry. I'll explain the video. You just see the video. Okay. So if you see this, it talks about the 4 terms which are generally used, or in fact 5 terms: big data, machine learning, deep learning, data mining, and neural network. So it will be talking about the explanation of these 5 terms. So big data basically refer to the huge
Sorry to
data
interrupt
set.
you, ma'am. There is no voice from your side. We're not able to hear anything from
Not from me as well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, madam, we are able to hear you. You can continue. And there is no sound from
The
the
video.
video, what madam is showing. So pay
Not a
attention
problem.
towards madam's session only. Yeah, madam, please.
Don't worry. Yeah, please don't worry for the video. I'll share the video on the mail also to Murugan sir, and he will share it with you all. At this point of time, I am explaining the video. Even if the audio is not there from the video, don't worry for it. Okay. I think I have tried all the options, Prateek sir, but it is not there. So don't worry for it. I'll explain it. So big data is talking about the massive, huge data which is there, and we need to have certain algorithms to process this. This is what it is showing, that it has different variety of data. See, there are different variety of data, and it is a huge data volume. So we need to have certain algorithms. So that is what it is giving you a recap of what we have already discussed is the big data that we need to come up with certain algorithms which is able to get the insights. This is nothing but the insights of the data which is so huge. So these are the 5 V's that I was telling you, and generally we come up with only 3 V's: velocity, volume, and variety, because all the rest of the 2 V's are interrelated to these 3 V's. Veracity and value. Veracity is the variability, that is how it is getting changed, and value is what is the actual value of your data. So this is nothing but which is can be related to velocity, volume, and variety. So data mine is nothing but it is trying to find out the patterns in the data. And in fact, data science is also doing the same thing. So you can say that data mining and data science are now used interchangeably. They are nothing but the same words. So data mining involves the visualization part also. Data and science also involves a visualization part in which you will try to visualize the data in some format. You can go for a pie chart, you can go for a bar chart, or you can form certain graphs to figure out how the data is changing. So this is the exact definition of machine learning. It says it uses the computer algorithms to analyze the data. Analyze the data means nothing but data analysis, or you can say the data science, and make intelligent decisions on the basis of your analysis. And you don't need to explicitly program for each and everything. Machine learning never works with if then else rules. If something happens, then you do this, else you do this. It doesn't work with if then else rules. In fact, you will need to have certain brains involved into it and certain intelligence into it so that it is able to perform certain things on its own. So just after this, we'll talk about AI. That will make the things more clear to you. That is what I was trying to tell you. They don't go for if then else rules, but they learn from examples. What happened in the past, they continue to do the same thing in the future. If past was good, they will continue it in the future. If not, they will not do it. And it is trained with a huge amount of data. And what is deep learning? Deep learning is nothing but is a subset of machine learning, which involves the neurons as it's basically the duplication of how you think. The machine also starts thinking in the same way. You do it with the help of neurons. So why not machines also do it with the help of neurons? So that is why it is known as neural network. Now, since it is not visible, now, this is most important slide, which says data science is a process and method for extracting the knowledge and insights from large volumes of data. That is what we have discussed till now. That is, you need to find out the insight so that you can come up with certain decisions. How do you do it? You do it with the help of machine learning, data visualization, and the statistical models. So you can say that data science involves machine learning, but no one is a subset of the other. They are two different things. Machine learning, data science. I can do an overlap between the two, saying that okay, there are certain things of data science which can be done with the help of machine learning, but there are other things also of data science which can be done without machine learning. I can do it with visualization tools, I can do it with statistics, and so on. So I can it could use machine learning or deep learning models that encompasses the entire data processing methodology. So AI includes everything that allows computers to learn how to solve problems and make intelligent decisions. Both AI and data science can involve the use of big data, but no one is a subset of the other. Okay? Okay. So we were talking about this. And these are the different types of analysis that we do have with data science. At this point of time, I would like to have your questions if you have any. I think you people are giving your attendance here. As far as Murugan sir told that you need not give your attendance here, you just fill the Google form, and if you have joined with YouTube, there you have to give your attendance. So don't worry in giving your attendance here. I think you need to just fill the Google form for the attendance. Any questions? I'm not sharing anything, Pranjul sir, so that is why it is not full screen. I'm just asking you the questions if you have any. Any doubts? Any questions?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm Dr. Kedar Shukla here. No questions as such, but we'll request you to share this inputs. Once the session is over through Murugan sir, so that we can better refer it again before exam, right? So that
definitely. I'll share the slide. I'll share the video that I showed to you to Murugan sir, and that can be shared with you all. Don't worry for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions or doubts on whatever we have done till here? That is data analysis. Difference between data analysis, machine learning, AI. In WhatsApp group, I'm not a part of that WhatsApp group, I suppose. So what I'll do is I'll share an email with Murugan sir with all the details and for the slides for the next session as well. Because post lunch also I'm going to take the session, so I give the slides for both the sessions to him, and that would be shared with you all. Anything else? No? Okay. So I'll continue with the slides then. Can you please explain the application of machine learning in civil engineering? Wrong question to a wrong person. I am a computer science engineer, a complete computer science engineer. So telling about civil engineering, I think you can go for soil testing on the basis of the images, because on the basis of the images you decide, but it is on the touch also. I think you touch the soil and then you come to know that, okay, this is clay or this is raw or something like that. In civil engineering, it will be more towards image based. That is, you click the images of the soil, and then you can train the model like this particular soil is clay or this particular soil is silt and so on, and then you can predict that what is the type of the soil once you are given a new set of soil. Yeah, stock market analysis is there, but yes, stock market analysis is very doesn't give you the exact results. The thing is, the stock market is very varied. If you are able to develop a machine learning model for stock market analysis, you would be a crorepati. You would be earning crores. So it's absolutely not possible to do it. We can just predict. Actually, the stock market is dependent on a lot of things. It is dependent on upon the company's P by E ratio. It is dependent upon that whether that company, like nobody ever thought in their lives also that Satyam is going to fall in 2000, Satyam, or CCD, the CCD Cafe Coffee Day CEO is going to suicide. So these are the things which cannot be predicted, and because of which the market varies a lot. The stock market analysis you can do, of course, yes. What are these types of papers that are being shared on civil engineering? Is it? Yeah, we can use deep learning for social media analysis. That is very true, and then you will find numerous papers on sentiment analysis or social media analysis. You will get many papers for that. Machine learning and deep learning techniques are same for different. We'll talk about machine learning and deep learning, don't worry. One practical example for machine learning and deep learning, we'll do that. Classification and prediction, how they are different, we'll do that. As I told you, ask the questions which has already been covered. Don't be in a hurry. You have 5 days of the workshops. We have a lot of time to talk about all this. Don't worry. Yeah, stock market is very dynamic, and stock market prediction is tough. Thank you so much. So we'll continue with the slides. I'll be talking about the classification, regression, prediction when I'll be dealing with machine learning. So please don't worry for that. And I'll be talking about deep learning and machine learning also. Now we come to the 4 types of analysis, which is generally there. Okay. To understand this, let me give you an example. Like suppose I have the data of students. Okay, I have this data. So I'll say, okay, and there are classes, and we are saying that what is the percentage of attendance in every class. Okay, so I'll say timing of the class, timing, and percentage of attendance. Okay, or I can say there are 100 students. How many 100 students in the class? How many students are attending the class? So if it is 9 to 10, then 10 to 11. Just give me 2 minutes. Let me take it as a text. So I have 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and then we have 1 to 2 lunch, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. This is the classes, and the attendance here is 30. Then the number of students increased. Then 11, it is again 80. It is almost 100. Lunch, 2 to 3, I have 100, 100, and then again it is somewhere around 70. Okay, so this is my attendance, suppose, and this I do it for suppose 15th October, and I have similar copy. And this I do it for 16th October. And then I do it for 17th October. So I have this type of data. And the same data is there for the 3 days. Okay, this same data we have. So there were some changes, but almost it remained the same. Like this. This was somewhere around 90, 99, and so on. Then again, this was almost the same data. 34, and here it was 90, like this. So I have these 3 data. What is this? What was I doing? I was trying to capture the data for the 3 days, and this is nothing but descriptive analysis. That is, I'm trying to show you the description of the data. What was a descriptive analysis? What actually is happening? Okay, so I am capturing the data. So this is nothing but descriptive analysis. So if you see, we have descriptive analysis, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. So descriptive analysis is saying what is actually happening. If you see this data, which is getting repeated every day, and manually also you can figure it out, saying that there is a very, very less attendance from 9 to 10. Correct? So you try to find out what is the reason for this. Why is it happening that the number of students are so less in 9 to 10 class? So you go for diagnostic analysis. That is, you try to find out the reason for this. What was the reason that the number of students are so less? Diagnostic. And when I am using these words, you can use these words while publishing a paper also. Like suppose you can go for a descriptive analysis of stock market, or you can go diagnostic analysis of the stock market, in which you will try to find out that why the price of a particular share fell down. Or you can say descriptive analysis, or then there is another thing as predictive analysis. Predictive analysis, you are trying to predict what is going to happen in future. So what you will do is you will create another sheet. Name it as 18th October, and then you will predict, okay, what is going to happen. So you may say that, okay, in 18th October also something is, it is something like this, and you can find out the average of all the number of students and then give the average here. It can be on the basis of average, or you can give the mode, or you can give the median, whatever. So you can, on the basis of the previous data, you are finding out what should be the prediction for 18th October. That is predictive analysis. Diagnostic, why it happened, why there were 30 students. So now you go back and say that, okay, you talk to the different students, you get the feedback from the students, and you found out, okay, since it is an early class of 9 o'clock, that is why the number of students are very less. Okay, and now you come up with the measures. What are the different measures that you can take for this? That is known as prescriptive analysis. Prescriptive analysis. That is, you come up with the measures for it. What can be the prescriptive analysis? Okay, it may happen that on 18th October also the number of attendance is less. So why not remove this 9 to 10 lecture and have a 5 to 6 lecture? Because people, the students are getting late in rising, so there is a problem that it may that because of which they are not 5 to 6 lecture, and remove this 9 to 10 lecture. Or you can do is make a 9 to 10 lecture of a very, very strict teacher who takes quizzes on every day, and the students will have to come to attend the class at any cost, isn't it? So this is known as prescriptive analysis. What is the prescription that you are going to do? What is the way you are going to improve this? If it is fine, no problem, because you're not going to improve this. This is absolutely fine. The number of students are in 12 to 1 lecture is perfect. So it may be that the 12 to 1 lecture is being taken by a very good teacher. Why not have replacement of 9 to 10 to 12 to 1? That may solve the problem of the number of students. That can be anything, isn't it? So, and this you are doing it in everyday lives. You are doing this on the base, whenever, now since we all are teachers, so whenever you are preparing your result, you always find out the median, and then you say B plus would be given to the person, to the grade which is getting the maximum number. Okay, B plus is given to the average student. Suppose there are suppose the average marks is 45. Suppose, so you will say, okay, 45 would be B, and then we'll go 5 marks down, 5 marks up, and this you do it every time. Every time whenever you are preparing your result, you do this. This is nothing but analysis. And you also go for a diagnostic analysis if you see that the topper is getting very less marks. So you'll call him up and say, okay, now in current times and online times, it may have happened that his network problem was weak. So you'll call him up and ask that, okay, what had happened? Were you not able to attend the answers? Were you not able to give the correct questions? What happened? So it may happen that the student says, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, I was really not able to give the answers because of bad connectivity. Can I get a second chance or something like that? Diagnostic analysis, you do it every time, isn't it? Predictive analysis and prescriptive analysis. So this is, if you want to do it automatically, you can do this. So descriptive analysis is what's actually happening. Diagnostic happening, why did it happen? Predictive, what is going to happen in the future. And prescriptive analysis is what should I do to continue. If the future is perfect, I'll continue doing the same. If it is not, then I will try to take the corrective measures. Corona also did the same thing. I'll show you. This is what. In the case of COVID-19, the data science was involved in the same way. In the healthcare analysis, it was done that how many, I can do the predictions. In the case of predictions, I said, okay, the number of patients are going on to be a very, very high. So we need to take certain measures. Why not have some more beds in the hospitals? Or why not open a new hospital for the corona patients? So this was predictions. And on the basis of predictions, you took certain prescriptive measures. Isn't it? What was a descriptive thing? That is, okay, the number of cases are increasing every day. Today it was 100, tomorrow it is 150, then day after it was 200 and so on. So this was descriptive analysis. You went on and find out the diagnostic analysis. What actually happened? The people were not wearing masks. The people were not maintaining proper distances. So that is why the number of cases have increased. Everyone is predicting. Yesterday also I was watching a news and they were predicting that the peak is going to come in December. Because people have stopped using masks, people have stopped using sanitizers, people are not maintaining social distancing. So the peak is going to come. So what is the prediction? Peak is going to come. What is the prescriptive analysis for this? Start having more hospitals, or you start telling the people. Today also when my maid came, she was not wearing a mask. So I asked her to wear a mask. This is the prescriptive analysis. That is, wear a mask. The peak is going to come. Predictive analysis, wear a mask. Okay, in governments and management also, like Atal workshop is an example of education and research, because the Atal people realized that, in fact, Soni sir and Sir Subudhe sir realized that the research and development is going on. The research is going on to be affected a lot because of online teaching. So teachers are also going to face a lot of problems, and the research is also going to face a lot of problems. Why not come up with Atal workshops, so that the people get a chance to study about a new subject with the comfort of their homes, isn't it? So that is also a part of prescriptive analysis. Some measures were taken on the basis of the predictions. Okay. So food for thought. Okay, these are the different applications that we use: e-commerce, manufacturing, banking, finance, transport, healthcare. So it is used in varied fields, and data analysts are, if you still go onto LinkedIn or any job site and you search for a data analyst job, you will get numerous jobs, numerous. People have stopped taking .NET developers or VC developers or C++ developers. People are just looking for data science experts. They are looking for data analysts, because as I have told you, the data is increasing at a very, very high pace, and you need people that can apply the algorithms onto this data, analyze the data, and then come up with certain measures to solve your problems. Okay, so it is being used in varied fields, and in all these applications, you need to apply some algorithms. What are these algorithms? The machine learning algorithms. Okay, so again, any questions? I would really request you all to please don't worry about the attendance, don't worry about anything, and concentrate here and ask me if you have any questions. Any questions? Because now I will start with AI, a little bit of an AI, and then we'll go for machine learning. I hope you were able to understand what is data science, what's data analysis, why do we do it, how do we do it. We'll talk about in the rest 5 days, how do we do it. But why do we do it is important. As I told you, we are science people. So we do ask questions of why, how, where, what. So these questions would be answered in the entire FDP. Thank you. Thank you, Anita ma'am. Pratibha ma'am, how to handle outliers from big data. That is a very specific question related to implementation. We'll see to it. Okay. My session has not ended as yet. Post lunch, I will be talking about machine learning. Akhila ma'am, probably you can drop me a mail and then we can do it one-on-one, because I will not be talking about data collection and social media specifically. Ma'am, understanding data science statistics is required. Yes, data science statistics is required onto a very, very primary level. On a very primary level, which you have already done in your 12th class. How to find out the mean, median, mode, or some of the statistics which is actually required. Because these are the ways in which you can compare your algorithm with the rest of the algorithms. Like, why are you studying this? Why are you attending the FDP? To do research on machine learning, data science. And what is the output of your research? A paper, a publishing. So you have to publish a paper for it. And when you are writing a paper, you need to compare your work with the rest of the people. And this you do with the help of evaluations of your model and comparing with the others' models. And you do it with the help of the statistical tools or visualization tools. You will draw graphs, you will draw pie charts, you will draw tables. In this way, you are going to compare it with the existing work. Okay, so these statistical tools are required, optimization techniques are required. So that these are all parts of maths, core maths. Which optimization techniques you can go for a PCA, or you can go for a dimensional reduction. So which part, how you are going to do the optimization, and which mathematical tools you are going to use for that. Yeah, machine learning is used for predictions. We have to do all these analysis and sequence in every problem solving, or it's like each analysis is applicable to a specific problem. It depends upon on which analysis you want to stop. Like suppose I just want to talk about the diagnostic analysis. Kyun hua corona? I am not worried about what is going to happen in the future. I'm just worried about ki kyun hua. The first stage is why did it happen? So I'll go only about for the diagnostic analysis. I'll not talk about predictive or prescriptive or anything. So depending upon your application and depending upon what do you actually want, you will go ahead with the analysis. Okay, Pranjul, sir, I think I have solved your problem. How far it is easy for a non-computer science background student to learn data science with the programming skills are highly required for analysis? Manju, Priya, ma'am, I don't agree with this. With this at all. Any person can work on data science because data science involves only maths, and we all have done maths till class 12th. So don't worry about it. And regarding programming is required because you have to implement your algorithm onto a data. So for that, programming is required, but you can take the help of any person who is very proficient in programming. You just have to tell him what to do. How to do, he will do it, isn't it? So what to do, you have to tell him, and for telling what to do, you should not be a computer science expert. You can be from any branch, because that is why, in fact, I will request the organizers of this workshop also, that when they are starting with Python, they start with the very, very elementary level, so that the people from different backgrounds also are able to understand. And I also started with a very, very minute level, at the layman level, so that everybody is able to understand that. Okay, Pranjal, not a problem. In the future, you are going to be a sir, so don't worry. My research work takes a lot of space, as I am taking a lot of data of 1 lakh rows. Is there any solution? Yes, machine learning always deals with a huge data. If the data is less, there is no point in having machine learning. So you can use Colab for it, and you need to have a very good RAM. That is the only reason. Or you can go to cloud. You can store your data onto cloud and then apply machine learning there. So, Manjupriya ma'am, I think your doubt is clear, because computer science is not required at all. Only for the programming part, of course, you will need a computer science person. But what to do, you will be able to tell, even if you are from a civil engineering background or a mechanical engineering background or electrical engineering, anything. No. Swapnil sir, you can use an existing model also, and that is known as transfer learning. I'm sure you will not be able to understand at this point of time, but yes, you can. I'm writing that word, in which you are using an existing model on your data. Okay, so transfer learning is there, and for any application, it all depends upon the data that you have and what is the application on which you want to work upon, and correspondingly, you can choose your machine learning algorithm for it. So now I will continue with my presentation. I want to talk about AI. What is AI? AI. Why I am covering AI? Because ML is a subset of AI. So AI needs to be covered. Artificial intelligence. AI. Artificial intelligence. It is made up of 2 words. Artificial intelligence. When do you say a person is intelligent? कब आप बोलते हो कि ये बंदा बहुत intelligent? When do you say that he or she is very intelligent? When he is able to reciprocate what he has learned, isn't it? So if you teach your kid A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and when you ask him, he's able to tell you A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. Fine. So if whatever it has been learned, it is able to deliver it on time in the correct format, you will say, okay, he is very intelligent. Now there are 5 students, okay, and you taught A, B, C to all the 5 students. A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. All the 5 students are able to give the same answer. You taught them. Next day you asked, they give the same answer. A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. Okay, you will say all are intelligent. And in all these 5, there was one student who said A for apple and A for ant, B for ball and B for bat, C for cat and C for couch. You were very happy. You say this guy is intelligent because he added his brain to it. He just didn't give you what he was told, but he told you something more out of the box, because he was able to find out the phonetics. He was able to get the phonetics of A, B, and C, and says A says B says B, C says K, and on the basis of that, he say A is apple, A is ant, B is ball. So wherever he could find out the word B, he says, okay, it should start with B, and he said ball, bat. C, cat, can. Because from that, he was able to interrelate the two from the phonetics. Okay, so he was taught A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and with that he added some more to it. He said A for apple, A for ant, B for ball, B for bat, C for cat, C for can, on the basis of phonetics. This is intelligence. So you know you have been taught something and you are reciprocating that, you are intelligent, fine. Or you can say you are able to retrieve the information on time in the correct format, fine. But if you can add to it, then that is actual intelligence. Okay? If you do this artificially, that is known as artificial intelligence. Humans are intelligent naturally. Bhagwan ne buddhi di hai hame. So we can do the things on our own. There is no one to teach you all this. As I told you, a small kid is doing it. Okay? A 6-month-old, very, very small boy, a 6-month-old boy is able to recognize the faces of his parents. Isn't it? If he'll go in the lap of some other person, he will start crying. But he can recognize the faces of the people. So he's so intelligent. A 6-month-old boy is intelligent. And if you would like to make a software for this, you will take some 2 to 3 months, and that also will not be very perfect for face recognition. But you can do it. Yes. So if a 6-month-old boy is doing it, it is natural intelligence. If I'm making a software for it, so that my system is able to recognize the faces, as you have it in your mobiles also, face recognition, you show the face and the mobile gets on, that is known as artificial intelligence. You are trying to tell the machine to behave in the same way as humans do. That is artificial intelligence. So it's a branch of computer science, and actually IBM comes up with the concept of augmented intelligence, which says augmented intelligence is adding more to what you already have. Because people in early 2000s started saying that, okay, robots are going to take the jobs of the people. So then they came up with the concept and saying that no, robots are not going to take the jobs, but we are going to add more functionalities to what humans have. So if I'm making an automatic car, I know how to drive the car. But a lot of accidents do happen. Why not make a machine so that the accidents are reduced? The number of accidents are reduced. How? By having certain solution for it. Okay, it can tell you, okay, there is a car which is approaching, so you need to reduce your speed. Put a brake, put an accelerator, put a clutch. If these things are there, then it is. Or there is a car which is coming from the back at a very speed. Move to the left. If there are certain things, then our driving would be safe, and we will incur less accidents. So this is augmented intelligence. It is, you already have some intelligence. I'm not going for a driverless car. I have an automatic car, and it is only telling me how to take certain precautions. Okay. So IBM says, don't take the jobs of the people, but increase the intelligence of the people by adding more with the help of softwares, with the help of sensors, cameras, etc., etc. So artificial intelligence can be of two types, narrow and general. What is the meaning of narrow? Sorry. Narrow says domain specific. Ekdam domain specific. I am going to make one thing which will be on the basis of the domain. I can make a smart speaker, I can make a self-driving car, I can make a web search, but a smart speaker will not be able to drive the car. Why I'm telling you this, that is, if you talk about humans, you know about Bollywood, you know about Shah Rukh Khan, you know about Kajol, you know Kajol and Ajay Devgan, husband and wife, you know how many pictures Kajol took, or you know who were the hero and heroine of DDLJ. You know about history. You know who was Sher Shah Suri, or you know who was Akbar. There was a question in Karodpati, who was the father of Babur or who was the father of Humayun. You know all these questions. Then geography. You know where is Andaman and Nicobar. What is the capital of Andaman and Nicobar? You know what is the capital of Canada. You know what is the capital of Ethiopia. So you know all these things. Addis Ababa, you know Port Blair. So all these things you know. You know about history, you know about geography, you know about Bollywood, you know about Tollywood, you know about your uncle. Who's your uncle? What is the name of your uncle? How many kids they have? What are the ages of their kids? What are the names of those kids? You know everything. You know about your neighbors also. Who's your neighbor? What are the fields in which they are working? Or my neighbor makes perfect kheer. Why not take a key from her? You know about computers, the RAM, the so have you ever imagined कि कितना कुछ चल रहा है हमारे दिमाग में, कितना सामान हम लोग लेके बैठे हुए हैं, and at one point of time somebody asks you who is the hero of VDLG, at one go you will say Shah Rukh Khan. If somebody asks you what is the capital of Andaman and Nicobar, at one go you will say it is Port Blair. So do you imagine the amount of data you have in your brains, and you are able to retrieve the information also from your brain at one go? आप जैसे बोलते हो कि you need to have search engines which are very efficient. So how can you make search engine efficient in your brains? So much of data and retrieval is so fast. But machines cannot do it. If I make a machine who is able to give you answers on history, he will not be able to give me answers on my uncle and aunt. Okay, so it is always narrow intelligence, and machines have to go a very, 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 very long way to behave as humans do. That is known as artificial general intelligence. Do everything what humans do. I can walk, I can talk, I can sleep, I can drink, I can do anything. So I can have a machine which is able to walk perfectly, but maybe he is not able to drink properly. Don't compare it with robot movie. Robot movie is still a long way to go to make a robot movie. And that robot movie, if you add emotions, if you have seen that movie, they added emotions, and it became devastating because he was thinking by brain only, not by heart, isn't it? So it is very tough to make narrow super intelligent or general intelligent. We are still on this field. Narrow AI, we can make domain specific machines, but it has to go to a very, very long way to make a general AI which is just behaving as humans do. Okay, so it has to go to test. I think most of you must be knowing it. What is a Turing test? Turing test was there was a human, there was a machine, and there was a human being at the other end who was asking questions. And on the basis of the answers, he had to decide that this answer was given by a machine or by a human being. Okay, so he asked question 2 plus 2. Both give the answer as 4, so he was confused who gave the answer. Then he asked what is the capital of Canada. Both were able to answer. He was confused who gave the answer. This is the Turing test. This is 1950s. I go one step ahead in this and stay in 2020. If I ask a question, what is the multiplication of 3,04,056 by 2,03,042? Until and unless you are Shakuntala Devi, you will not be able to answer me, isn't it? But computer can do it. So my Turing test fails. Does my Turing test fail? Yes, it does. Because he is able to understand from where I got the answer. I got the answer from the computer. So he is very well able to understand that the answer was given by the computer and not a human being. So what I believe is the computer should be so I will say, just if you want to make a computer similar to a human being, then he should not be able to answer certain questions which humans can't do. Humans can't answer certain questions. The computer should also not be able to answer those questions, isn't it? It's tough. It's really tough to make such a machine which is actually like human beings. So that is why it says that a long way has to go to make a machine work as what human beings work, or make them super intelligent, better than the human beings. Absolutely next to impossible. So we have to make scalable, automated insight extraction from structured and unstructured data. This is what we have already discussed. Scalable means if we can do it for 100 records, let us do it with 1 lakh records. I'll go to the last slide. This is how machine learning is interconnected. Let me... Okay, so if you see, this is suppose AI. Then this is machine learning. This is data science. Oh, it went back. Let me erase this. And this is data science. Oh, sorry, this is deep learning. This is deep learning. And as I told you, data science is something different which doesn't have to deal with anything. This is data science. This is data science. So you have AI, you have ML, machine learning, which is a part of AI, deep learning, which is a part of machine learning, and data science is something different, which is using the concepts of AI, which is using the concepts of ML, which is using the concepts of DL to do the analysis, to do the visualizations, to do the statistical models. So it may use visualization tools, it may use statistical tools, or it may use AI to do the analysis. When the data becomes very huge, when we are talking about big data, then we generally go for ML techniques. Then we generally go for ML algorithms for solving the analysis problem, for finding out the hidden patterns. Okay, and if the data is not very huge, I can go for statistical tools or I can go for visualization tools. But once the data becomes very huge, then we generally go for machine learning tools. Okay. So I hope this part is clear now. Again, I will go for the doubts or the questions which you may have. Sophia is another robot which is used, and it is a domain-specific robot, sir. I think I have used maximum 3 sentences in Hindi, Shiva, sir. ISRO has recently developed a humanoid named Vomitra to support Gaganyaan mission. So, ma'am, is it not a super intelligent robot? And if not, in which category I should place such a robot? Pranjul, again, I would say the same thing. Still, we are going only for a domain-specific robot. The humanoid robot is Vomitra, as we are talking about, is more concentrated towards how to do it in the space. If you ask that robot to drive a car, he will not be able to do it. So that is what I was trying to tell you. If you are making anything, it is generally domains. Generally, or always, it is domain specific. You cannot expect a robot which is there for a mission, for a Gaganyaan mission, to drive the car also, isn't it? So that is what I was trying to tell you. It is always domain specific. Shiva sir, I think that's what I was telling you. I have used maximum 3 sentences in Hindi. Why robot will drive a car? Jitendra sir, I am just giving you an example saying that a robot is, if it is there for a specific domain, then you will not be able to get that robot do something else. Okay? Anything. I gave you an example of driving a car. You can ask that robot to climb a mountain, then he will not be able to do it. Any other questions? No, no, Pranjul. We have to go to a long way, in which actually what happens is once if you don't specify the domain, then the data becomes very huge. The data is very huge. It is and it is not possible to store the data so huge, store that huge amount of data, and also retrieve the correct information in the correct format at the correct time. It always takes some time. There is a lag in doing it. So that is why we are not able to get those robots which are so intelligent that they can behave exactly as we do. As what I told you, it can be for a particular domain. Like suppose if I want to teach, then I can make a teaching robot. If I want to drive, I can make a driving robot. If I want to go for a Gaganyaan mission, I can make a robot for that mission. But if you ask that robot to teach, he will not be able to do it. Okay? Any other questions? So I hope the different concepts of machine learning, AI, data sciences, data mining, data analysis is clear, and you know what are these terms and how they are used. Great. Any other questions? Because in the next session post-lunch, we'll start with machine learning. What is machine learning? Why do we do it? How do we do it? What are the different types? We'll talk about that in detail. And if the time permits, I'll also take up a problem of machine learning in Python. But probably I would be only able to show you the results of this. You won't be able to understand the code at this point of time, but yes, I can show you one problem, how to solve it. Okay, anything else? Any questions? Can I see that YouTube link so I can answer those questions on the YouTube as well? I don't have that YouTube link with me. Can anybody share that YouTube link? So if there are questions on the YouTube, then I can answer those questions also. There was no YouTube link on the chat. Can I have that YouTube link, please? Thank you, Raghuraman sir. Thank you, Kedar sir. Thank you, Sarabjit sir. Thank you so much. Can anybody share the YouTube link? Okay, thank you. I got that link. So I'll just check if there are any questions on the YouTube as well. I don't think there are any questions on the YouTube link. Participant ID, okay. Okay, there are 17 participants who are watching this. But I don't think there are any questions on the YouTube as well. Okay. Okay, Jitendra sir. So the second session is on hands-on. So probably then I'll start with Python. Okay. Okay, so then before that, I would like to show you what is machine learning. Just give me 2 minutes because I was under the impression that the second session is machine learning. Then I'll quickly go through the machine learning a little bit. Just give me 2 minutes in that case. I was under the impression I'll be doing machine learning. Then we'll start with Python tomorrow. We'll start with Python in the post-lunch session. And I'll start Python with the very first part. So don't worry, you don't have to install any software. I'll be using Colab. So I've already written the word. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to do anything. We'll be doing the starting of Python. Yeah, don't worry, Swapnil sir. We will start with Python in the very early stage. So don't worry at all. Yeah, machine learning is different from the traditional programming in this way, in which we give the data and the program as the in traditional programming. What we do is we give the data and the program as input, and we get the output. Simple. We'll say int a is equal to 2, int b is equal to 4, int c is equal to a plus b, and print c. So we'll get the answer as 6. That happens in the case of traditional programming. What happens in the case of machine learning is we give the output as the input to the program, and we ask you what should be the program so that I get the desired output. I ask you this program, what should be the program that I get this desired output? And output is based on the data. Correct. So we give the data and the output as the input, and we ask you what should be the program to get the desired output. That is what machine learning is all about. So machine learning also talks about the task, the performance as E. What is the task? What is the objective that you are supposed to do? And how well you are able to perform that task. That is your performance evaluation. It's basically the evaluations. So what exact evaluation? How exactly you are able to do it? Were you able to do it correctly or not? And experiences what happened in the past. So for this, we have 6 steps. define the objective, define the task, what you're supposed to do, gather the data. That these are the same steps which I showed you in at the time of this big data analysis also, when I showed you about the business analytics. These are the steps which are involved, gathering the data. Now, actually, in nowadays, these two are the most important part. You can come up with a problem, but you don't get the data. So you know how to, suppose my task is to glaucoma detection in the eye. So that my task is glaucoma detection, but I'm not able to get the data. I need to have sufficient images of the eyes with glaucoma, without glaucoma, and so on. So data gathering is a big problem, and then prepare the data in the format which you actually need for your algorithm. Then you perform certain explorations on the data. As I showed you, descriptive analysis, diagnostic analysis, all this analysis is done on the preliminary stage, and you can go for visualization tools at this point. Then you actually build a model and evaluate the model and predict and do the predictions for the future. Model evaluation is, that is, you calculate that, okay, were you able to predict it correctly? And then you start doing the predictions. So building a model is, you can use a supervised technique, you can use an unsupervised technique, like which model you are going to use, neural networks, linear regression. And then when you actually build the model, it's like this. You'll take care of the overfitting and the underfitting of the model. Somebody asked me the question, the outliers. So these are outliers. In the case of machine learning, if you start taking the care of outliers also, then it is known as the overfitting model. The model was completely overfitted and it started giving absurd results. I'm going on very fast on this because this will maybe would be covered in the next sessions. And I was under the impression that I have to cover machine learning in the post-learn session. Okay, what I'll do is I'll first cover this part, underfitting and the overfitting of the model, and then I'll move on to Python, because this is really very nice to understand this. So we'll cover this part and then we'll move on to the to Python. And then you build the model and do the confusion matrix and so on to find out the accuracy of your model. This is nothing but evaluations of the model. So we'll do this part and then we'll move on to Python. Okay. So that's the end of the this session, and we will start with the post-learn session at 2:30. Yeah, I'll share the slides. Don't worry. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much.